Mr. Nathan Harris, do you take Samantha Foster as your lawfully wedded wife? I can't. Get ready. This story will touch your heart. Leave a like on this video and comment where you are watching from. And subscribe to the channel to see new videos. The grand estate of the Harris family was nothing short of magnificent. Crystal chandeliers bathed the vast hall in golden light. White imported flowers adorned every corner, and a string quartet played softly in the background. The elite of high society had gathered for what was promised to be the event of the year, the wedding of Nathan Harris, one of the most influential millionaires in the country, and Samantha Foster, a socialite and heiress to a fashion empire. Nathan's posture remained firm, but inside, he was caught in a silent storm. His gaze wandered across the room, taking in every detail, the admiring looks from the guests, the dazzling camera flashes. And then, something made him catch his breath. In the middle of the crowd, there she was, Ellie Grant. For a moment, everything around Nathan disappeared. His heart pounded, his throat went dry. She stood there, dressed in an elegant navy blue gown, her chestnut hair cascading in soft waves, the same intense eyes that once made him believe in love. He blinked rapidly, as if trying to convince himself it was an illusion. But it wasn't. Beside Ellie, her best friend, Nicole Carter, whispered something in her ear. Ellie's expression remained neutral, but Nathan knew every detail of that face. He saw the discomfort in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. She didn't want to be there, or perhaps she didn't want to be seen. The murmurs among the guests faded as the grand doors of the hall swung open. Samantha Foster appeared, stunning in her wedding gown, walking confidently down the white-carpeted aisle. Her eyes were locked on Nathan, a satisfied smile on her lips. To her, this was the moment that would solidify her status, her position beside the most desirable man in the elite. But Nathan, he couldn't focus on her. With every step Samantha took toward the altar, Ellie's presence grew stronger in his mind. The weight of his decision began to suffocate him. Marrying Samantha was the right choice, the easy choice, the choice everyone expected him to make. He even liked Samantha, but over time he realized she didn't truly love him. For her, everything revolved around status. Her gestures of affection always had a hidden purpose: to manipulate him, to control him, to secure her place by his side. Samantha knew exactly how to steer him into a world where appearances mattered more than genuine feelings. Nathan wondered if she had ever really seen him as anything other than a trophy. He started to think, but what if the right thing was what he had left behind? The guests adjusted themselves in their seats. The officiant opened his book. Samantha smiled at Nathan, certain that nothing could go wrong. "We are gathered here today to celebrate the union of Nathan Harris and Samantha Foster." The officiant's voice echoed through the hall. Nathan felt his hands grow clammy. His heartbeat pounded erratically. He looked at Ellie once more, and this time, she looked back. In that instant, he knew he was about to make an irreversible mistake, one that would change the lives of everyone in that room forever. The weight of his choices fell upon him like a burden too heavy to ignore. He knew he should have never let it come to this, but now, standing before everyone, he felt trapped. How could he find a way out without breaking hearts along the way? Years before the wedding, the warm spring breeze gently stirred Ellie's hair as she walked through the tree-lined square of the university campus. The laughter of students blended with the chirping of birds, creating a scene that, for Nathan, would always represent freedom. That was where he saw her for the first time, sitting under the shade of a tree, a book open on her lap, her eyes intently following every line. In that instant, without fully understanding why, he knew he wanted to meet her. The college years were intense. Nathan, ambitious and determined, balanced his business studies with internships at promising companies. Ellie, on the other hand, was passionate about design and dreamed of starting her own brand one day. They were opposites in many ways, yet together, they found the perfect balance. She made him laugh on difficult days, and he encouraged her to never give up on her dreams. The first time they were together was at a student festival. The loud music, the colorful lights, and the excitement of youth set the perfect stage for their first kiss. From that moment on, they shared unforgettable experiences. Long conversations at the cafe near campus, spontaneous weekend trips, plans for a future full of possibilities. Nathan had never felt anything so real. Ellie didn't see him as the future millionaire, but as the man behind the ambitions. But life outside the university soon revealed its harsh side. Nathan received an irresistible offer to enter the financial market alongside his brother, Andrew. The dream of building something great, of making history, seemed closer than ever. And Ellie? She supported his decision, but something inside her changed. The distance between them began to grow, first in small gestures, then in prolonged silences. Nathan became increasingly consumed by work, endless meetings and business trips. Before he realized it, weeks had gone by without seeing Ellie. Her messages became less frequent. The sparkle in her eyes, once so vibrant, faded with every new absence. Then, on a cold autumn night, Ellie waited for him for a special dinner that never happened. He had completely forgotten about it. When he got home, he found only a note on the table. "You changed. We changed." And that was how the love he thought was unshakable slipped through his fingers. He tried to reach out, tried to explain, but Ellie had already made her decision. And now, years later, seeing her among the guests at his wedding brought all those memories rushing back. The past he believed was buried returned with full force, and the question that refused to leave his mind was inevitable. What if things had been different? The silence in the hall was deafening. All eyes were fixed on Nathan, waiting for his response. The officiant had asked the final question, and Samantha, with a triumphant smile, eagerly awaited the long-anticipated yes. But Nathan couldn't speak. His heart pounded against his chest as his hands grew clammy. He looked around, and for a moment, everything seemed to move in slow motion. The curious gazes of high society, the flashes of cameras, the grandeur of the meticulously planned event. Yet his mind wasn't there. It was on the woman who had consumed his thoughts for the past few minutes. Ellie. He found her among the guests. Unlike the others, she wasn't smiling or displaying any anticipation. Her eyes held only a distant coldness, as if she already knew how this ceremony would end before he did. That hit him like a punch to the gut. There she was, the woman who had once meant everything to him, now feeling as unreachable as a distant memory. Nathan took a deep breath, his throat dry. The officiant's voice echoed again through the hall, this time with impatience. "Nathan Harris, do you take Samantha Foster to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Time seemed to freeze. He looked at Samantha, who was gripping his hand tightly, almost as if trying to pull him into the golden reality she cherished so much. But there was no love there, only a union of interests, status, and convenience. And that's when Nathan realized what he had to do. I can't." His voice was low but firm. A murmur spread through the hall like a shockwave. Samantha's eyes widened, her expression shifting from confident to incredulous in mere seconds. "What did you just say?" she whispered, her voice laced with disbelief and restrained anger. He gently released her hand and, taking a deep breath, stepped back. "I'm sorry, Samantha. I can't do this." The hall erupted into whispers. Guests murmured among themselves. Journalists were already typing furiously. Samantha, however, remained frozen, her expression now a mix of shock and humiliation. Ellie looked away and discreetly stood up, walking toward the exit. Nathan noticed and, without thinking, took another step away from the altar, ignoring the outraged stares. But before he could go after her, Samantha found her voice again and in a sharp tone declared, "You're going to regret this, Nathan." He looked at her one last time, seeing not just a wounded woman, but a powerful one who would never accept humiliation without consequences. Her gaze was a warning, and Nathan knew this story was far from over. The news of the broken wedding spread like wildfire. Within hours, social media, gossip sites, and newspapers plastered the headline, "Nathan Harris leaves Samantha Foster at the altar." The scandal reached unimaginable proportions, putting not only Nathan's personal life under scrutiny, but also jeopardizing the Harris family's business empire. Samantha, locked away in her luxurious penthouse, watched the news unfold with a cold stare. Humiliation. It was the only word echoing in her mind. Since childhood, she had been taught that losing was never an option, and she would not lose now. "He thinks he can just discard me like this?" she murmured, her eyes burning with fury. "He's going to pay dearly for this." The next day, a press conference was called. Samantha, impeccably dressed and with a composed expression, stepped in front of the cameras. Her voice was controlled but filled with emotion as she made her statement. "I am deeply shaken by what happened yesterday. I dreamed of this day for years and never imagined I would be exposed like this. But what hurts me the most is knowing that Nathan didn't just destroy our future together. He also put his own family's company at risk." The journalists exchanged surprised glances. Then, Samantha revealed documents that, according to her, proved financial irregularities within Harris Enterprises. The numbers were damning, suggesting a tax evasion scheme that could cost millions and tarnish the company's reputation. The news exploded instantly. Investors panicked, stocks plummeted, and within hours, Nathan watched as his empire began to crumble. He knew immediately, this was no coincidence. This was Samantha. At the office, Andrew Harris, his brother, stormed in, tossing a tablet onto Nathan's desk. "Have you seen this? She's not playing to lose." Nathan closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. He knew Samantha well enough to understand she never made a move without precision. This wasn't just revenge. This was war. "She wants to destroy me," he murmured. Andrew crossed his arms, his expression heavy with concern. "And the worst part is, if these accusations gain traction, it won't just be you paying the price. The entire family will go down with you." Nathan knew he had to act fast. But how do you fight an enemy who knows all your weaknesses? The game had changed, and now it was his turn to make the next move. Nathan stared at the documents spread across the table. The newspaper headlines were a brutal blow to his reputation and the company. The scandal orchestrated by Samantha was taking its toll, and Harris Enterprises was beginning to suffer the consequences. Across the room, Andrew Harris paced back and forth, arms crossed, his expression heavy with concern. "If we don't fix this soon, we'll be in a hole we can't climb out of," Andrew said, stopping in front of his brother. "We need a response." Nathan ran a hand down his face, feeling the weight of the decision on his shoulders. He knew he had two options: publicly refute Samantha's accusations, which could escalate the war even further, or work behind the scenes to neutralize the damage before everything collapsed. Neither option was ideal, but he had to act fast. The phone rang. It was his attorney, Samuel Carter. "Nathan, we just received a formal request for an investigation into the alleged tax irregularities. We need to gather evidence to disprove the claims or find a strategic way out." Nathan looked at Andrew, who gave him a silent nod of confirmation. The situation was worse than they had anticipated. If they didn't find a solution, the company could face severe penalties. In the midst of it all, something else was bothering him even more. Ellie. He knew that after what had happened at the wedding, she was trying to keep her distance. But somehow, he felt like he needed her. Nathan picked up his phone and hesitated before dialing her number. What could he even say? How could he drag her into this chaos? "You really think she'll want to talk to you after everything?" Andrew asked, noticing his hesitation. Nathan let out a heavy sigh. "I don't know, but I have to try." He pressed the call button and brought the phone to his ear. It rang once, twice, 3 times before Ellie's familiar voice answered. "Nathan?" she said, surprised. He took a deep breath before replying. "We need to talk." Nathan felt the weight of everything that had happened in the past few days. The public humiliation, the collapse of his company, the doubts and suspicions hanging over him. But above all, he felt an unbearable emptiness. He needed Ellie. Not for strategy, not to fix the company's problems, but because she was the only one who had ever truly seen him for who he was. When she answered the phone, her voice carried a mix of surprise and hesitation. Still, she agreed to meet him. The moment he saw her, Nathan felt a momentary relief, as if everything could somehow be fixed just by being near her. "Are you okay?" Ellie asked, her expression cautious. Nathan took a deep breath before answering. "But being near you makes me feel like I can get through this." She looked away, stirring her coffee. "That doesn't change what happened, Nathan. I know. I just needed to see you. Needed to remember what really matters to me." The silence between them spoke louder than any words. He knew he couldn't ask anything of her, but just being there, even for a moment, was enough. Meanwhile, at Harris Enterprises, Andrew was sifting through documents alongside the company's lawyers. The case was more complicated than they had imagined. Samantha had fabricated evidence against Nathan, but an unexpected detail emerged during the investigation. Harris Enterprises' financial director, Lewis Marshall, was actually involved in fraudulent activities. This wasn't just a scheme orchestrated by Samantha. Something deeper was eating away at the company from within. When Nathan returned to the office, Andrew was waiting with the news. "We need to act fast. The accusations against you were manipulated, but some of them are real. And if we're not transparent about it now, we could lose everything." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of this new revelation. He knew what had to be done. The next morning, he and Andrew held a press conference. Standing in front of the cameras and journalists eager for answers, Nathan took a deep breath before speaking. "Over the past few days, my reputation and that of Harris Enterprises have been called into question. Accusations have surfaced, some false, others, unfortunately, true. My commitment has always been to transparency, and that is why I am here today to set the record straight." He revealed the evidence against the financial director and outlined the measures being taken to clean up the company. Andrew reinforced the company's commitment to ethics and announced a full audit. Meanwhile, Samantha, watching the press conference from her penthouse, realized that the game had turned against her. Her once impeccable reputation was now stained. Public opinion was beginning to question her, and what had once been a position of power was starting to crumble. Nathan's company was beginning to regain its credibility, but there was still a long road ahead to fully restore the market's trust. He knew he would have to fight hard to rebuild his image. But at that moment, only one question occupied his mind. Could Ellie ever trust him again? Nathan gazed out over the city from the wide window of his office. The press conference had helped calm part of the scandal, but there was still a long road ahead to fully restore Harris Enterprises' reputation. Market trust was fragile, and every decision now carried more weight than ever. Andrew walked into the room, tossing a newspaper onto the desk. "The media is still divided. Some say we were brave. Others think you only spoke out because you had no choice," his brother commented. Nathan sighed. "That was expected. Now we need to act with transparency and make real changes within the company. It's not enough to just clean up the mess. We have to make sure this never happens again." Andrew nodded, but there was something else in his expression. "And Ellie?" he asked. Nathan was silent for a moment. Ever since they had seen each other again, he hadn't been able to get her out of his head. Reaching out to her and talking about everything had helped him more than he expected. But did she still want to be part of his life? "I'm going to talk to her," he finally said, determined. Later that day, Nathan went to the bookstore where he knew Ellie liked to go. He found her flipping through a book, lost in thought. When she noticed his presence, she looked up, surprised. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you," he answered without hesitation. She slowly closed the book, studying him. "Have you solved your problems?" "Not completely, but I realized something important in the middle of all this." He hesitated for a moment. "I could lose everything, start over from scratch, face any crisis. But the only thing that truly scares me is losing you again." Ellie lowered her gaze, taking in his words. "Nathan, I don't know. I spent a long time trying to forget you." "I know, but I never forgot you," he said, stepping closer. "And I don't want to make the same mistakes again. Let me prove to you that I can be the man you deserve." The silence between them was heavy with meaning. Then Ellie took a deep breath and met his gaze. If you want to prove that, you'll have to earn it. Not just with words, but with actions. Nathan gave a small smile. I'm willing to do that. She studied him for another moment before finally smiling back. Then we'll see, Nathan. At that moment, he knew he had been given a second chance. Not just in business, but in what truly mattered. The love he had never stopped feeling for Ellie. And so, we reach the end of this story filled with twists, love, and redemption. Nathan had to face not only the challenges in business, but also the dilemmas of his heart. In the end, he realized that true wealth isn't found in power or status, but in genuine connections and real emotions. If you enjoyed this story and want to follow more emotional narratives like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Stories for You, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything new. And of course, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts on this journey and what your favorite moment was. Thank you for being with us and see you in the next story.